Your Excellency, my Lords, Chief Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real delight for me to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, here we are in the Guildhall, London's historic commercial centre, and a fantastic location for these events. And it's an honour for me to represent the UK government and my department. I have to say, with some trepidation, given there's probably some journalists in the room, that a week is a long time in politics, doesn't really cover the 7 days since Liz Truss resigned as our Prime Minister. But actually for me, for us, and actually for you in Gibraltar, there's continuity. James cleverly returned last Tuesday, reappointed by Rishi Sunak as our Foreign Secretary, knows Gibraltar well, was previously Minister for Europe, and now also Leo Doherty returned as Minister for Europe. We had a meeting this morning. He's passed on his best wishes. He's sorry he couldn't be here instead of me, but we were in a kind of phase of transition last week, and I wanted to make sure you had somebody to talk to you. The other reason why it's a delight for me is, as the Chief Minister said, I was Deputy Governor of Gibraltar. Now, I'm a diplomat, and I have been for the last 37 years. It makes me feel old when I say that. And I've had 7 overseas assignments. And I'm repeatedly asked, sometimes by people inside the Foreign Office, a lot by people outside, which was my favourite. And I always refuse to answer that question. I say, well, I was in Venezuela first, and it had a bit of this, and I was in India, and I was in Washington, our biggest, most important bilateral mission. But actually, the truth is, telling you all, not too many of you, a bit of a secret, my favourite genuinely was my time as Deputy Governor of Gibraltar. Now, I could say some of that was about what we did in that period, but actually, that was a bit of it, but actually the most important part of it, and the reason why it's genuinely true, is because of the people of Gibraltar. And I remember saying at the dinner that your predecessor gave me, Peter Caruana, as Chief Minister, if there was one place in the world where I knew that I could walk down the street and meet friends, it was Main Street in Gibraltar. So it is genuinely a pleasure to be back. I consider Gibraltar my home. Thank you. As you rightly pointed out, Chief Minister, it's great to be back in person, first time since 2019, and a lot has happened since then. I mean, today is about underlining the commercial, financial, economic links between the UK and Gibraltar. For me, it's also about underlining the UK and the UK government's absolute commitment to Gibraltar, working in partnership. Thank you for what you said about what we were able to do during the COVID time. I salute people in Gibraltar for your resilience. I salute the way in which you, as you always have done in your history, have adapted to adversity and challenges. We were really pleased to be able to help as the UK, both in terms of the vaccines that you mentioned, but also the economic support, as everybody went around the world, but including places like Gibraltar, went through a really tough time. I hope that's all behind us now. I hope that we can look forward with confidence. Yes, there are headwinds, but I think Gibraltar's history of transformation, the way in which over the last 30, 40 years, you've gone from an economy mostly dependent on defence and the UK's presence there to an absolutely modern, forward-looking, diverse place, whatever sector it is fantastic, and I think gives all of you confidence for the future. We've had other challenges. We're still working through, as the Chief Minister said, that the consequences of the UK's decision to leave the European Union. I think, thank you, Chief Minister, for the way in which you've worked in absolute partnership with the UK government, with successive ministers in the Foreign Office on what are complex and difficult negotiations. These issues are technically difficult to resolve. We're still hard at it. I'm confident we can work through them. I'm confident that we can do them, but it is tricky and it is political, both in Gibraltar, in Spain, but also in the UK. But thank you for the partnership. It's absolutely, I think, fundamental to a successful outcome. And then, of course, sadly, we also had a couple of months ago the death of Her Majesty the Queen. I know that was keenly felt in Gibraltar. It was, I think, a privilege to be able to have representing Gibraltar, both His Excellency the Government and the Chief Minister at the funeral. I think the way in which her passing after an extraordinary reign of 70 years was marked in Gibraltar was truly fitting. But I know also that you've embraced His Majesty the King, and I know that also had a very successful visit back in June by the Earl and Countess of Wessex. I think the relationship between Gibraltar and your sovereign and your royal family was marked appropriately in those days, which were difficult for all of us, but I think again we can look forward to the future with confidence. And underlying that is the sovereignty word, and you mentioned it, Chief Minister. The British government's commitment in that regard is unflinching and unchanged and will not change. Again, it's important that I should say that. I'm very confident if you'd had a minister in front of you, he or she would have been saying the same thing. And then finally, conscious that I'm probably between you and all of your lunches, I just wanted to end by saying, what is it about Gibraltar that I think does mark it out as being different? Why is this room full? A place of 30,000 people. Why of everyone from the heart of the UK's financial and commercial centre chosen to take time out of their diaries to come along today? I think it's more than the free lunch that we're all about to enjoy. I think it is about the innovation, the creativity, the opportunity, and the ability to look to the future, and frankly the resilience, which means I'm sure, as all of you on the business side from the UK end look at this and look at it from a kind of risk perspective, you actually see opportunity, you don't see risk. You see a jurisdiction which is able to flex and adapt as circumstances have changed, and that gives me real confidence for the future. Thank you so much for inviting me today. Thank you for coming along, those who've come from the UK side, and I hope everyone enjoys their lunch.